Welcome back to CIA Declassified. For over 100 episodes, we have chased the paper trail of the CIA's most guarded secrets, but today we're leaving Earth entirely. If you're a regular listener, you know we deal in hard data. Today's hard data is a document titled Mars Exploration, May 22nd, 1984. The document code is CIA RDP 96 007 88R 0019 007 6 0001-9. Now, the viewer in this session is someone very familiar to the show, Joseph McMoneagle. For those just joining us, we have an entire episode already published dedicated solely to McMoneagle's background as remote viewer number 001. And his work is quoted in numerous other episodes across our archive. He was a career military intelligence officer who was later awarded the Legion of Merit for his contributions to the Stargate program. In this specific 1984 session, he was given a sealed envelope containing geographic coordinates and a date. 1 million years BC, Mars. What he saw wasn't a dead red rock, but a world in the middle of a planetary cataclysm. Let's talk about the protocol. This wasn't a casual chat. This was conducted under Project Sunstreak. The viewer was double-blind. He had no idea if he was looking at a Soviet submarine pen or a crater on the moon. The monitor handed him a sealed envelope. Inside was a 3x5 card that read Mars, time of interest, approximately 1 million years BC. The session began at 10:09 a.m. The monitor provided the first set of coordinates, 40.89 degrees north, 9.55 degrees west. For those of you following along with the map of Mars, these coordinates lead directly to the Cydonia region, the site of the infamous, quote, face on Mars, end quote. And the transcript, McMoneagle immediately describes a, quote, pyramid or pyramid form. He notes it is huge and sitting in a depressed area. He describes it as being yellowish or ochre colored. Direct quote from the transcript. I'm moving through a lot of clouds, more like dust clouds. It's a geologic problem. It's like, well, just a minute. I've got to iron this out. It's strange, end quote. He wasn't describing the thin CO2-rich air of modern Mars. He was describing a world with a dying atmosphere, thick with the particulate matter of a world-ending event. As the monitor pushes the viewer to look for, quote, biologicals, the session takes a turn that feels like a fever dream. McMoneagle describes seeing people, but they aren't like us. Another quote from the transcript. I'm seeing, it's like a perception of a shadow of people, very tall, thin. It's only shadows. It's as if they were there and they're not there anymore, end quote. The monitor tells him to go to a time when they were there. McMoneagle describes a civilization facing the end of its world. He says, quote, very large structures, end quote, that are smooth and carved out of rock. These aren't houses. They are shelters designed to withstand a thinning atmosphere and solar radiation. He describes the inhabitants as very tall people wearing strange-fitting clothes, looking for a way to survive. Interestingly, he mentions they were, quote, waiting, end quote. When the monitor asks what they are waiting for, the answer is chilling. McMoneagle said, they are waiting for a party that has gone to find a new place to live, end quote. Let's pause for a reality check. In 1984, the best images we had of Mars were from the Viking orbiters. They were grainy and low resolution, yet McMoneagle describes, quote, huge sections of smooth wall and rounded corners, end quote. Later in segment 4 of the transcript, the monitor gives him a second set of coordinates, 35.3 degrees north and 186.7 degrees east. This is near Olympus Mons, the largest volcano in the solar system. McMoneagle's response, quote, I'm looking at the end of a very large mountain, the side of a mountain. It goes on and on. It's rugged, very rugged, end quote. He describes seeing caverns and unusual square rooms carved into the base of the mountain. In the 2000s, NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter actually identified what looked like, quote, skylights or cave entrances on the flanks of Tharsis volcanoes. McMoneagle called them out 20 years before we had the high-res optics to confirm they even existed. Perhaps the most famous part of this declassified document is the Exodus sequence. The monitor asks the viewer to follow the group that left. McMoneagle describes them entering a, quote, large metallic object. He calls it a boat, but notes that it has rounded walls and shiny metal. A quote from the transcript: "It's a very large rounded object, like a boat, but the walls are very thin. It's almost like it's made of a glowing metal," end quote. The monitor asked where they are going. The viewer describes a place with heavy clouds, volcanoes, and strange vegetation. Many researchers believe the viewer was describing Earth during the Pleistocene era, or perhaps even earlier. This leads to the interplanetary migration theory that haunted certain corners of the DIA and CIA for decades. Were we looking at our own ancestors? The document doesn't give an opinion. It simply records the viewer's perception of a desperate ancient journey across the void. There is a profound sadness in the latter half of the transcript. McMonagle describes the Martians who stayed behind. He sees them waiting in a sleep-like state. He describes a hall of records or a place of memory. Quote from the transcript: "They're a literal people. They're fighting for something to return, something that will tell them where to go. They're very ancient. They're dying. They've lost their hope." End quote. This segment of the episode explores the psychological impact on the viewers. These sessions weren't just data collection, they were trauma harvesting. The CIA documented this in their internal human effects reports, wondering if remote viewing across time could cause permanent psychological displacement. McMonagle himself reported feeling a deep sense of, quote, planetary mourning, end quote, that lasted for weeks after this session. We have to ask, why is this filed alongside Soviet missile-based reports? In the 1995 Blue Ribbon Panel audit of the Stargate program, investigators noted that high-value targets were often calibrated against known data, but there was no known data for Mars in 1 million BC in 1984. However, the intelligence community was obsessed with environmental modification and planetary engineering. If a civilization on Mars had failed to save their atmosphere, the CIA wanted to know how it happened and if the technology they used for their exodus was still lying in the dust of the Sidonian plain. CIA document RDP 96 007 88R 0017 0021 0016-5 suggests that the agency was looking for, quote, anomalous artifacts, end quote, that could be retrieved, if not physically, then through informational extraction. We have talked about traveling through time with the mind, but what if the CIA found a way to move through space without moving at all? In our next episode, we are looking at a document that was buried so deep even the Stargate directors rarely mentioned it. We're diving into CIA RDP 96 007 88 R 0017 0021 0016, specifically the sections concerning the production of controllable wormholes. This isn't a physics paper from a university, it's an intelligence briefing on advanced theoretical propulsion. We will discuss torsion fields, vacuum polarizability, and why the CIA was interested in the math of traversable space-time shortcuts. We will explore the agency's theory that the great boat McMonagle saw didn't fly through space, it folded it. The math is real, the documents are declassified, and the implications are terrifying. See you in the next episode. In the meantime, I'll see you in the archives.